it's Laura Lemur, style unique, mind geek, overall on fleek. Today we're starting into part 3 of the series where I turn Animal Crossing New Horizons villagers into Disney heroines. Really quickly, I just want to apologize for the delay on this video. Thank you for your patience. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So for me, making Pico into Mulan was a very obvious choice. So obvious that I had to do it. Pico is a normal villager in the Animal Crossing series. Obviously, based on her design, there's a lot of Asian influence in her character. The only difference is that Mulan obviously isn't as girly as Pico. Now, just as a disclaimer, this isn't one of my favorite designs, as it turns out in the end. I loved the Mulan movie growing up. Like, it was one of my favorite movies. I would watch it over and over again. I loved that movie so much, so I was very excited to draw this character. But towards the end, there are some design flaws that I see, and I would probably change if I had to draw it again. Regardless, I don't regret it. I took some risks. I did a pose that tried to show more dimension, and I don't regret doing that. As usual, we start off with the sketching phase. I'm just going over the sketch I did offline with some digital line art. Then eventually, as you'll see later, I'll refine the details off camera. As I mentioned before, the sketch goal was to make this more dynamic. Pico is a little more girly, so I wanted to give Mulan's essence to her as well as making her look like Mulan. We're taking her from a cute cub to a warrior cub. So now that the line art looks good, it's all finished, we're going to the coloring phase. As you can see in the image, I have Pico and Mulan there, so we're taking colors from both of those images to combine the characters and the coloring. I start with Pico's colors, like her fur, her pink patches and things like that, and then Mulan's colors are more in the outfit. I do want to mention how much I love the pink that's on Pico's cheeks and ears. It just makes her look really adorable. Additionally, like with all the characters in this specific episode, all of the characters' hair are black, hint. However, in order to really capture the details of the hair, I make it a slightly off black color. So with Mulan's hair, we're making it more of a really dark purple versus black. And I almost forgot to shade the cheeks, the most important part. So now we're moving on to the outfit. As you will notice later, I went back in and made the colors a little bit lighter. The Mulan reference photo I used was at night, and it was also in a darker part of the scenery, so the colors were naturally more muted and dark because of the shading. So that was reflected in the original coloring that I did. So off camera, I take those colors and make them a little bit lighter. I had to shut the background off briefly because the gray that I was using matched the background a little too much, so I couldn't really see if I was coloring or not. And then to wrap everything up, I color the blade of the sword. Next, we have the shading portion of the drawing. For this specific drawing, the light is coming from the center bottom specifically. So as the biggest part, I start with her hair and shade that. Then we move on to the fur. Then we start shading the clothes. In my opinion, this is really where it starts to come together. I feel like you see a lot of the shading more in her clothing. I'm just really starting to imagine her now fighting the Huns off in battle. I'm curious now though, what would the Huns look like if they were Animal Crossing villagers? Don't tell me, by the way, because I don't need any more inspiration for characters at this point. I have so many ideas that I need to finish. It's not even funny. Now we're going to the highlight portion of this drawing just to wrap everything up, and I really am just mainly highlighting the hair and the sword. Those are the two shiniest things in the picture. Because the sword is so swirly, I had to really figure out how I'm highlighting it, combining with the fact of the weird lighting angle. Additionally, we also color the line art mainly on the sword as well as the face. Finally, we have to choose a color for the background, and I chose a turquoisey type color. And we're all done. Again, this one's not my favorite. I probably would have changed the eye position and the size of her face, but overall, she's pretty decent. So next we're drawing Amelia as Pocahontas. Now Amelia wasn't the most obvious choice, but there really wasn't any villager that was, unlike with Mulan's character, Pico. Amelia is a snooty villager. Although she is a snooty villager, I find her to be more elegant as well as motherly, and her house is very nature orientated, so I think she's a very nature loving person. So this really suited Pocahontas' character, I felt. Not to mention, I wanted to give Amelia super long hair. Finally, what really sealed the deal is that Pocahontas is really tall, or she appears to be very tall for a woman, so I really wanted a character that was also tall. Another disclaimer, unlike with the last drawing, I really do enjoy the end result of this character. Pocahontas was another favorite childhood movie of mine. I just wanted to summon the colors of the wind like she did, and run in the forest and slide down waterfalls, even though that's not particularly safe. You probably can't tell in my line art, but as I was drawing, I felt more confident drawing over this sketch. I feel like it's because the pose was a little less complicated. Also, I really do admire Amelia. I still play Animal Crossing New Horizons, and I actually have 2 Switches, and she is on my second island as a villager, and I just love her. I think she's just so sweet. We're getting to the fun part, the coloring section. There are lots of colors to work with for this specific drawing, so I have a lot of layers. Once I got the layers set up, however, it was pretty easy to do the coloring from there. We started off with the torso and then worked our way down to the feet, With all these different colors, I was really afraid this piece was going to clash, but they actually all kind of work together in a very odd kind of way. I also gotta color those fringes, and I'll be honest, that was the most annoying part to color all the way around. It's so detailed. As odd as this sounds, I was so excited to color her face. I just love Amelia's face coloring and how there's patterns. She's just a very colorful bird. Finally, we can't forget that luscious long hair. When I was a child and when I used to hate my curly hair, I wanted stick straight hair like that flowed so badly. You have no idea. Actually, you might if you grew up with curly hair like me. Let me know in the comments below. Did you also hate your curly hair? Next, we have the shading. Before we get into that, I will mention I colored the leaves off camera. So I've explained this before, but typically my shading process is that I go to each layer. I'll have a group of layers. I'll put a layer on top of the base layer. That'll be my shading layer. I'll set that to multiply. I'll pick the color to color that with, and then eventually lower the opacity of the shading. The light source is coming from the left this time, so I gotta make sure my shading is in accordance with the light source. Our next step, we have the highlights. There's a little more highlighting in this section than there was in the previous sections. Any sort of minor highlights I did off camera because it didn't really translate in the footage, and I thought that would have been boring to watch. As you can see, I did have trouble with the beak, but I eventually got to a place where I like the shading on it. Also, we've got to highlight that beautiful shiny hair. Like with a lot of the highlights, I colored most of the lines off camera. However, I did show the fringes. And this is because I was gonna color all the line art of the fringes. However, I just colored the line art in between. We also got to color the line art of those leaves really make them pop. Finally, I chose brown as the background color for this drawing. And she is complete. I really like this character combination, and I'm super glad I picked Amelia. Finally, our third character is Savannah the Zebra as Esmeralda. Originally, I was going to go with a different character, however, I ultimately decided to choose Savannah. I knew from the beginning it had to be a normal villager because I feel like out of the 3 female appearing villagers, the normals seem to be the more altruistic of the 3 types. In essence, I would put my bet on a normal villager to save the hunchback from all those cruel people in the town square. I think Savannah has a really unique style. She's a pretty underrated villager in my opinion. I think her house is super pretty. Plus, I really wanted to draw a horse, so I think my initial choice, it was good that I changed it. Regardless, I was most excited to draw the big hair from Esmeralda. I love that hair so much. Look up some poses for inspiration, and I found this one in particular that you see here. As you can see, Animal Crossing villagers have very big heads and mid-sized torsos and kind of like short limbs, so there's a limited amount of posability that they have. Overall, it's a more dynamic pose that I usually go for, and I'm really excited that I picked this one because I feel like it suits the character very well. As you can see, I've retouched and edited the line art, specifically adding more texture to her hair, and now we're gonna color. So after I added the white, I added black stripes. It's really more of a charcoal gray color, and then what I do is that I go in with a airbrush eraser to kind of make it look like the stripes are fading into the skin. As you can see, I'm just wrapping up the details here, finishing off the face, coloring the hair, the eyes, the inside of the ears, and the tongue. Next, we're really gonna color the hair, and I was tempted to use solid black at first, but as I explained earlier, solid black really doesn't show a lot of the details in your work, so you're best going with an off black color. So once again, I whipped out a deep purple, particularly more of a warm deep purple than a cool, and then I colored her hair. There's a lot of crevices in the hair, so it took a while, but as I've learned from my own personal experience of having curly hair, big frizzy hair is a laborer of love. Next, I'm coloring the outfit. I have to say, I really love the purple of this scarf. It's just a nice deep purple, but this really shouldn't be surprising. I've always loved purple, as you can probably tell by my branding. Now I'm finishing off the coloring with the small details, specifically her eyeshadow. Now in order to add that dimension, we have to shade. The light source is coming from the right this time. I realized this as I was editing, but I probably could have made it seem like she was dancing by fire. I think that would have been really cool. but we learn from opportunities lost, I guess. Of course, we gotta shade that luscious hair. I will say I've never been crazy about the Hunchback of Notre Dame movie. I always thought it was a fine movie. I think it has a good villain. I really like Esmeralda, but overall it's not really one of my go-to Disney movies. But as I said, I like Esmeralda and I love her hair, so that's a plus. Like her hair, I also love Esmeralda's outfit, and in this specific instance, I really love how I shaded her skirt. I think that turned out very well. I did the deep shading off camera, so now it's time to do the highlights. Really the two things that I focus on highlighting is the hair, of course, and the gold jewelry. Next, I'm gonna color the line art, particularly the gold jewelry. And finally, I chose purple for the background, oddly very close to my branding colors. That was not intentional. And here's the end result. I think she looks super cute. I'm glad I went with Savannah, and she looks like a great dancer. Well, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, and let me know in the comments below which character was your favorite. I personally think the Pocahontas one was the best one. And this is unrelated to this video, but as you may have seen, I've changed some of my branding style. Let me know what you think of it. I'm still in the works with a lot of things, so be prepared to see that in the future. All right, everybody, until next time, take care. Bye-bye.